Zabu has finally been nerfed in Marvel Snap, and the decks you're playing, which were dominating the ladder last season, are going to need to be tweaked. There's a bunch of new interesting interactions with Zabu at 2 costs, and I've got the best 8 decks for this card. Give the video a like and subscribe for more. It's now a 2-2, and your ongoing cards cost 1 less. This means double Spider-Man is much more difficult to pull off, and on turn 6, instead of being able to play 3 4-cost cards, you can only play 2 of them. There are some workarounds of that though with cards like Quinjet and Mystique. The first deck, however, is Mr. Negative. Zabu is now an absolute must-have in this archetype because it is doubling up as a similar card to Psylocke. You can play Zabu on turn 2, and then that means on turn 3, Mr. Negative is only going to cost you 3, meaning you get that Mr. Negative down a turn earlier than usual, which is very significant because that's increasing the odds of you drawing things like Iron Man for 0 cost and 5 stats. Psylocke does the same job in this deck, but that just means that you have a much more consistent way of getting Mr. Negative down on turn number 3. If you do find Zabu or Psylocke into Mr. Negative, you do want to snap. Bast is in here, very difficult to replace if you don't have him. He is now only Series 4, definitely worth trying to purchase. I just purchased him myself this week. You could put Arnim Zola in here as a pretty easy replacement. A lot of the other cards are focusing on the on-reveal aspect. We have Wong, Ironheart, Wolfsbane. Of course, you can play Mystique onto either Wong or Iron Man as well. White Tiger coming through. Magic is a great card to play on turn 5 to increase the amount of turns that you're going to be getting your Mr. Negative buffing cards up or drawing Mr. Negative cards. And you often just want to hold as many points as you can until turn number 7. Blue Marvel comes in because you often fill the board, and it's a pretty nice power play. Often you do have some spare energy around turn 6 after you play Magic with this one, so he just fits in really quite nicely. Up next, we have another use for Zabu, which was previously not particularly good, and that is Zabu and Sandman. I actually did used to play Zabu and Sandman. You play Zabu on turn 3, and then Sandman plus another 4 drop on turn 4. However, it just got better because you now play Zabu on 2, meaning you can Sandman on turn 3. And that is really devastating because a lot of decks are going to want to play lots of cards early, and this Sandman a turn earlier is just limiting your opponent's options even further. This is the budget version of Sandman. You have Ebony Maw and Sunspot to get that early board presence, Psylocke and Zabu to get your Sandman down by turn 3, America Chavez to increase the odds of that combo happening, and then we've got a similar vibe with the on-reveal cards of Wong, White Tiger, Doctor Doom and Odin to just try and fill the board. Jubilee's in there, Arrow's in there. These are the 2 main considerations to cut. I think that Captain Marvel's a pretty serious option as well in here. Leader would have been a great addition into this one before its huge nerf a couple of weeks back. I just don't think it's a serious option. The more expensive version of this deck is utilizing Shuri. This deck is really bad though into cards like Arrow and Shang-Chi, so do be warned of that. But Psylocke and Zabu again to get this Sandman down on turn number 3. And then you can be playing Wong on turn 4, for example, Black Panther on turn 5, and then you could play Arnim Zola into the Wong and Panther to get I think it would be 32-point Panther into 2 locations. There's loads of other lines you can do with this, so you don't have to play Sandman. You can get Wong and Shuri down by turn number 4, and that means that you can then skip turn 5 and then play a 40-point She-Hulk, 40-point Taskmaster on turn 6. So that would be Zabu on 2, Wong on 3, Shuri on 4, skip turn 5, and then suddenly She-Hulk is 40 points and so is Taskmaster. Also, Doctor Doom into Wong when Sandman is down on the board is really good at playing around those pesky Shang-Chis. This might be the best deck in the game. Up next, we have 2 more traditional takes on Zabu. This is the budget-friendly version of just Dino. What you can do in this one is Zabu on turn 2, Mystique on 3, and that's going to reduce the cost of all of your 4-cost cards down to 2. Does that sound familiar? So it's a bit of a flashback deck. This is going to enable you to play Spider-Man and Absorbing Man together on turn 5. The other way you can do this as well is with Quinjet. If you get Quinjet down on 1, Zabu down on 2, and then you play your Moon Girl on 3, that is going to mean all of the cards that Moon Girl copied are only going to be costing 2. So for example, you could then play a Spider-Man and another Spider-Man on turn number 5. This one, again, you might want to play around a little bit with the Arrow in particular. I wasn't too convinced by. I know a lot of people do like Aero in this one. Mystique can double up onto Devil Dinosaur as well. The list felt really good though. I tried Agent 13 and Iceman, and I did prefer this build, but Agent 13 could come into this one also. This is the more expensive version of the deck if you have Dark Cork. Very similar looking list, but with the addition of Dark Cork, Korg, and Rock Slide. Aero, the main consideration for this one. You could also try Absorbing Man to get that double Spider-Man action going through. You've got the Quinjet and the Mystique, which can be used onto Zabu. I do think Mystique onto Zabu is going to be the ideal setup most of the time, rather than Mystique onto Dark Cork. So be trying to pull off that combo. It's making Chavez better in this deck as well, because it's just going to happen much more that you have Zabu on 2, Mystique on 3. Okay, this is a bit of a Copium deck. I did just want to give it a mention, though, of trying the old school Dracula Jubilee build, but with the addition of Mystique. Zabu on 2, Mystique on 3, and then that would just, the rest of the deck would play out as it used to. And of course, this is one of the best decks in the game last season. It is going to be, of course, much less consistent, but I did just want to give it an honourable mention because you could, in theory, still pull it off. What you might also want to try with this one is cut away one of the big boys, maybe one of the 4s, and add a Moon Girl and a Quinjet in here to give you a little bit more flexibility on pulling off that double Spider-Man play. Don't forget, Jubilee Absorbing Man is a serious option as well to just pull out big bad boy stats. The last 2 decks are more for fun decks. The first one is a Hazmat deck. Definitely going to be the best way to play Hazmat is with Zabu. The reason for that is Wong and Absorbing Man and Moon Girl are all great cards in this deck, and Zabu is making all of those a lot cheaper. Also, Quinjet Zabu cost reduction is making you be able to combo a whole bunch of cards on the last turn. Mystique can be used on either Zabu or Wong on this one, and the idea is you just get a few cards on your opponent's side with Debris, and then you play Luke Cage, Hazmat, Odin, Absorbing Man, Wong, all these cards, setting your opponent's cards to minus 50 or whatever it might be, and then you just have a few points of your own. Debris into Wong is a great way of getting lots of cards onto your opponent's side very, very quickly, so do look out for that play. Don't really like this deck overall. It is the best Hazmat deck you'll find. I just don't like Hazmat in general. There's too many cards that you need for this combo to work. You have to draw Hazmat. You have to draw Luke Cage. You kind of have to draw Wong, and you kind of have to draw Odin. So very, very clunky in the end, but still a nice one to try out. Up next, a very similar looking list, but this one with Gambit, and this one I definitely prefer. Invisible Woman is a bit of a star of the show in this one, because otherwise what happens if you play your Gambits on 5, for example, getting ready for that Odin on 6, then your hand gets discarded and you would be relying on top decking Odin. However, with Invisible Woman, these Gambits do not discard your hand until after the game is finished. So you can play Invisible Woman, Wong, Gambit, Odin, for example. Zabu in here again because you go Zabu Mystique, you can go Mystique onto Wong, and it's making your things like Moon Girl, Spider-Man, Absorbing Man, Wong all a lot cheaper and easier to combo down all together in one big play. These are my favourite 8 Zabu decks. Let me know in the comments what you think. I think the best ones, Mr. Negative, Sandman, and Dark Cork. The rest, definitely worth checking out. I think Dino is a serious deck as well, but Dark Cork, definitely a better way of doing it. And yeah, very excited to try out some more of these. I'm going to have video guides on all of them, so make sure you subscribe for more. The secret keyword for today is invisible, because of how good Invisible Woman is in this. So if you watch the whole video, write down invisible in the chat, and I'll know you're a real G. I appreciate you. Take care. See you on the next one.